All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. Now, during the decade of the 1980s, the Cincinnati Bengals found themselves on the doorstep of football's holy grail twice, only to be turned away on both occasions by Joe Montana and the San Francisco 49ers. Now, in Super Bowl number 16, the infamous goal line stand in the second half by the 49ers summed up the Bengals' loss that evening at the Pontiac Silverdome. While 7 years later, it was Montana's touchdown drive late in the fourth quarter that derailed the Bengals' chances of securing their first Super Bowl title in franchise history. And ever since that fateful night in Miami for the Bengals, it was a rapid fall from grace. As following their trip to the postseason during the 1990 NFL season, the Bengals would not have another winning season until 2005, while this season marked the first time that they were able to win a playoff game since 1990. And now the Bengals are just 60 football minutes away from winning their first Super Bowl championship in franchise history as they find themselves on an improbable run this month. 2 years ago, the Bengals were just 2-14 as they finished with the worst record in the National Football League. And in doing so, they earned the first overall pick in the 2020 draft, which they used on quarterback Joe Burrow. Now, Burrow was coming off of one of the greatest seasons for any college quarterback as he helped LSU win the national title. And last year, Burrow's rookie season was cut short due to an ACL injury, but he and the Bengals have come back with a vengeance this season. We saw the Bengals win the AFC North for the first time since 2015, and in doing so, Burrow completed more than 70% of his passes while throwing 34 TDs and 14 picks. Of course, Jamar Chase at wide receiver had a big time season, 81 catches for 1,455 yards or 13 TDs. But here in the postseason for Burrow, he's really shown his mettle. You go back to the wild card round against the Las Vegas Raiders. There, Burrow was 24 of 34 for 244 yards with a pair of TDs, and he helped Cincinnati secure that first playoff win that kind of really got the momentum going. Then last weekend against the Tennessee Titans, Burrow was not at his best, and we saw that Titans defense sack him 9 times, but he was good enough. And he just relied on his D, made enough plays down the stretch. And of course, Cincinnati was able to advance to the AFC Championship game. And in today's AFC Championship game, Burrow and the Bengals never lost their cool. Now, late in the first half today, Cincinnati found themselves down 21-3 to the Kansas City Chiefs on the road. But the momentum began to shift late in the first half when Burrow connected with running back Samaje Perine on a little dump pass, and of course Perine did the rest rather, as he scored from 41 yards out for the touchdown to make the score 21-10. And Cincinnati got a huge break just prior to the end of the first half, as it looked like Kansas City was going to settle for a chip shot field goal from Harrison Butker to give them the 24-10 lead. But instead, head coach Andy Reid and quarterback Patrick Mahomes got greedy, and they found themselves going for another touchdown. Connected with Tyreek Hill, but he was stopped short of the goal line. And of course, being the Kansas City was out of timeouts, that was the end of the first half. So instead of being up 24-10, they found themselves up 21-10. And that was important because in the second half of this game, we saw the Bengals defense really put the clamps on this Kansas City offense. Most notably, their defensive line was able to dial up the pressure more against Patrick Mahomes. As you saw him, just like it was in the Super Bowl loss last year, he never was able to get set in that first half and the second half, rather. And that's where the interceptions came because no quarterback, I don't care who you are, no quarterback likes to be uncomfortable. And they were able to dial up that pressure. The Bengals pass rush, they woke up, they hurried Mahomes. But then the Bengals offense got going as well. And, we talked about Burrow and his calm, cool, and collectiveness. But then, this Chiefs defense had him dead to rights several times in that pocket. in that second half today. But you know what? He was able to escape danger, either pick up the first down with his legs, or he found an open receiver down the field. And speaking of those open receivers, T. Higgins really stepped up today with 6 big catches for 103 yards. And I say that because Jamar Chase, for the most part, was doubled every single time he ran a route today. And I kind of expected that due to the fact that we saw what Jamar Chase did to the Chiefs secondary when they met a few weeks ago, as he simply torched them. And this was a situation where the Chiefs weren't going to allow Jamar Chase to beat them today, but nonetheless, T. Higgins stepped up, and even with that, Jamar Chase still had 6 catches for 54 yards and a touchdown. Joe Mixon, he contributed with 88 yards on the ground. On 21 carries. And of course, this Bengals defense with 2 big interceptions. And of course, the big one coming in overtime after Kansas City won the coin toss. And you know what? That really changed the momentum of that game. And of course, the Bengals went down, got into field goal range. And of course, Evan McPherson sent them to the Super Bowl. Now, this Bengals team right here, plain and simple, they embody Joe Burrow. And you look at Joe Burrow, he has ice water in his veins. And you looked at this Bengals team, they never got down on themselves. They never finger pointed. They simply went out there and made plays. And that's a big reason why they're still playing. And this is a reason why they're going to take on the Los Angeles Rams in 2 weeks in Super Bowl number 56. And with that said, I'm talking about the ice water in the veins of Joe Burrow, and it embodies another quarterback that was named Joe, that once upon a time tortured the Cincinnati Bengals, and of course that was the great Joe Montana. But you just look at Burrow; he doesn't get phased, he doesn't get too high, he doesn't get too low, and that's important for what you need out of your quarterback when you're looking to go out there and win big games. Now, Joe Burrow and his head coach Zach Taylor, they're hopeful to do what Ken Anderson and Forrest Gregg, along with Boomer Esiason and Sam Weish, came close to doing, which is to be able to bring Cincinnati another Super Bowl title, or a Super Bowl title, period. And you figure the city of Cincinnati, they have not seen a championship of any kind since 1990. And you got to go back to the Cincinnati Reds when they swept rather the Oakland A's in the World Series in 1990. And then, of course, you know, the city of Cincinnati was spoiled during the 1970s with the Big Red Machine in baseball. And of course, so many great players came off of that team. But nonetheless, the Bengals really took a step back for so long. A lot of people referred to them as the Bungles, but now they are once again on football's holy grail at the doorstep, trying to get themselves a championship. For me, you look at the Chiefs in this game, and they were up 21-3 in the first half. Arrowhead was rocking, and rightfully so, because when the Chiefs are on, Arrowhead Stadium is one of the loudest places in sports, period. And you know what? To me, I think at that point, the Chiefs had already packed their bags for Hollywood and Super Bowl 56, not realizing that their opponent was still game. Somebody needed to remind the Chiefs that they had Cincinnati down by 2 touchdowns on 2 different occasions when these two teams met earlier this season. And both times the Bengals came back. So, Cincinnati was not going to be phased by all of this. And you looked at it when when Kansas City rather, failed to get points just prior to the end of the first half. It sucked some air out of that place. And then, of course, when Mahomes threw that interception in the third quarter, some more air was sucked out of it. And you just saw Cincinnati chipping away and chipping away and chipping away, down 21-13. And then when they get that touchdown to make it 21-19, and then, of course, they go for two, the whole dynamic of the fans' reaction at Arrowhead completely changed. And then, the Bengals D made that key play late in the contest when it looked like Kansas City was going to go down there and score the potential game-winning touchdown. And then, of course, the strip of Mahomes. Unfortunately for Cincinnati, they were unable to get the ball back. But still, Kansas City had to settle for a field goal, and the game went to overtime. And then we saw the Chiefs win the coin toss. And then from there, a lot of people figured, and I'm sure, some of the chief players, and rightfully so, figured, okay, we got this because we've got Mr. Mahomes on the side, playing quarterback for us, and it's going to be just like how it was last week against the Buffalo Bills. But this is a thing, and I want to go back and talk about this real quick. People, there have been plenty of people who want to see the overtime rules changed in the NFL, meaning that if the team scores a touchdown, you want to give the other team an opportunity to answer. And we saw this question come up several years ago when the Chiefs lost to the New England Patriots in the AFC Championship game. Of course, the Patriots won the coin toss. They marched right down the field and scored a touchdown, and that was it. And then we saw last week when Kansas City got the coin toss, marched right down the field on Buffalo and scored a touchdown, and of course that was it. I've been a huge proponent on it. I mean, honestly, I was a fan of the old sudden death rules, meaning, you know what? You got to go out there, you got to stop them, even if they kick a field goal and win the game on their first possession, whatever. But nonetheless, the bottom line is, and I'm going to stick by this, the defensive players get a paycheck to go out there and play. And in getting a paycheck on defense, you're getting paid to stop your opponent from scoring. Buffalo finished the regular season with the number one defense in the NFL. Okay, they could not make the key plays first in the last 13 seconds in regulation last week, and then of course in overtime. They had multiple opportunities to make plays, just like the Chiefs defense had opportunities a few years ago against the Patriots in the AFC Championship game. Fast forwarding to today, after the Chiefs won the coin toss, what did the Cincinnati Bengals defense go out there and do? They went out there and made a play. Patrick Mahomes keyed in on Tyreek Hill, his top receiver. Jesse Bates, the safety, made the play over the top to tip the ball out of Tyreek Hill's hands. And Von Bell was right there waiting, and the rest is history. That is what you do. We saw this Cincinnati defense go out there and make the key interception late last week against Tennessee. And then, of course, that set up Evan McPherson for the game winning field goal. And that's the bottom line. You have to go out there and make plays. Somebody has to step up and make a play. And this is what happens defensively when you know that you have a quarterback on the other side that can get it done. And that's no disrespect in any way, shape, or form to Josh Allen, because I think Josh Allen is one of the better quarterbacks in the National Football League for the Buffalo Bills. His defense, unfortunately, could not come up and make a key play. And of course, they were done in by another one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL in Patrick Mahomes. But I'm just talking about defensive players, they know how to go out there and, make key plays when they know they can get the ball back to a quarterback that can get it done. You have that in Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City. You also have that in Joe Burrow. I mean, obviously, Joe Burrow has not been in the league as long as Patrick Mahomes, but you know what? His teammates gravitate to him. We see that. We saw that during his brief tenure at LSU after he transferred from Ohio State. And then we're seeing it once again here with the Cincinnati Bengals. And, speaking of these Bengals, because they went into the Lions Den, and I know that they're the Bengals, but no pun intended, today, because you're looking at a team in Kansas City. This was their fourth consecutive trip to the AFC Championship game. They were looking to get back to the Super Bowl for a third consecutive year. The odds were really stacked against the Cincinnati Bengals. And, I know that the odds makers out there made Kansas City a 7-point favorite coming into this contest. I don't see why, especially after the Bengals beat this team earlier this season, and you looked at what they were able to do offensively in that contest. But nonetheless, some people laughed it off earlier in the week when Joe Burrow said, he wasn't going to be phased by the noise at Arrowhead. Because, I mean, again, Joe Burrow started off in the Big Ten at Ohio State, didn't get a lot of playing time there. But, the Big Ten has some very large stadiums there. But also, going to the SEC and playing at LSU, you're going on the road to Bryant Denny to take on Alabama. You're going to Jordan Hare to take on Auburn. You're going to the Swamp to take on the Florida Gators. And, Neyland Stadium in Knoxville, these are some of the largest venues in college football. All of these places seat close to 100,000 people, not to mention the people on the sidelines, the people that are, in the SRO section. The thing is this, um, so you're going to hear a ton of noise. And of course, when you're a road player in a college on the college scene, the fans can get after you. You know what I'm saying? From the hotel to getting to the stadium to being at the stadium to warm ups, the whole shebang. And not to say that it doesn't happen in the NFL either, but nonetheless, when you go through that environment, you're ready for the NFL because playing in the SEC and playing in the Big Ten is just like playing in the NFL every single Sunday because of the environment, but then more importantly, the talent that you're going against. You look at all of those players from that LSU championship team that are now in the NFL. You look at all of the guys that Joe Burrow had to face at Auburn, at Georgia, who are currently in the champion of the National Football League. This is it's an internship, it's on the job experience. And that's what Joe Burrow brings to the table. And I got a comment from a partner of mine, questioning, the next Montana aspect. But I say it from the standpoint again, he's unfazed. And if you go back and look at Joe Montana's career, and of course it was a great one. And even prior to Joe Montana taking the field in the NFL when he started off in Notre Dame, it's a situation where you know what you need that quarterback who number one has the moxie, but number two, you know what, the moment never gets too big for him. And that's what Joe Burrow does. That's what Joe Montana did for all of those years. And that's a reason why he's one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play this game. And for me, at this point, it's going to be very hard, or for a lot of people to root against Joe Burrow and the Bengals. And I say that from the standpoint because the glass slipper fits. They are the Cinderella. This team came out of nowhere this year. They sat back and watched all three of their division rivals make the playoffs last year. And then it was the Bengals who turned around and ran through that division like gangbusters, which included sweeping both the Baltimore Ravens and Pittsburgh Steelers. And I know that Lamar Jackson was hurt for a good chunk of the second half of the season. And I know that Ben Roethlisberger was at the end of the line. But the bottom line is the Steelers and the Ravens have been the big brothers in that division for so long. And it's one of those where, when you're the big brother, you tend to bully your little brother. And little brother and the Bengals finally said, you know what, this year we're not taking it anymore. And to another question from a partner, Rodney, was this one of the best playoff seasons ever overall? It has been. And you know what? It's not done because I mean, we've seen some very exciting games every single round. You go back to the wild card round. The like you didn't have as many exciting games in the wild card round, but one game that definitely stands out right now is the Bengals Raiders game. That was a good one. Of course, the Patriots Bills was a blowout. Bucks Eagles was a blowout, and then of course that Niners Cowboys game, that was another thriller. Then you look at the divisional round where every single game was decided by the last play of the game. We saw the Rams get the walk-off field goal on the Bucks, and that was after the Bucks made that huge comeback. We saw the Niners come back against the Green Bay Packers and kick and get the walk-off field goal from Robbie Gold. We saw the Bengals get the walk-off field goal, and then of course we saw Kansas City make that comeback and get the walk-off touchdown. We had two great games today. The Niners fell a little bit short to the Rams. Credit to the Rams for coming back. There's a lot to talk about in that game, and I'll save that for another podcast. But nonetheless, the Bengals today, great comeback on their part. They never got phased, as far as being in Kansas City, taking on Patrick Mahomes, taking on the two-time defending AFC champions in their place. And, so many of those guys had Super Bowl experience. The moment never got too high for Joe Burrow and company. And like I said, the glass slipper fits for this team. And the thing is, we're not even close to midnight. So I know that the Bengals, they're going to find themselves going into another hostile and another unique situation. Yes, it's a Super Bowl. Yes, it's supposed to be a neutral site. But the thing is this, the Bengals are going to be taking on the Rams. And of course, SoFi Stadium is the home of the Los Angeles Rams. So, it's going to be a de facto home game for the Rams. We've seen the Rams play in close proximity. Um, to their home field in a previous Super Bowl. Super Bowl number 14 was played in Pasadena at the Rose Bowl. And of course, that wasn't that far away from the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum where the Rams played their home games at that time. This one, obviously, the Rams going to be playing at home. Second consecutive year where we're going to see the Super Bowl played and have a team who plays their regular home games on that field representing are playing in that Super Bowl. So of course the Rams are looking to do what the Tampa Bay Bucks did last year. One difference though, you're going to have a full house. So obviously you're going to see more than likely more Rams fans there. But I will say this. We saw a lot of 49er fans in the stands today, and we saw a lot of 49er fans the last time that these teams played in the regular season. So with that said, being that the Bengals have not gotten to the Super Bowl in a month of Sundays and then some, you're going to see plenty of people from Southern Ohio and the state of Kentucky making their way out west. So, with that said, it might not be just a slam dunk that we're going to see, the crowd leaning in favor of the Los Angeles Rams. Nonetheless, Cincinnati's not going to be phased. Joe Burrow is not going to be phased. I think it's going to be a great matchup. I have plenty to talk about leading up to that game between now and then. But nonetheless, if you're the Bengals, and I said it after they beat the Titans last week, they're playing with house money right now. This team has absolutely nothing to lose. Nobody expected them to make the playoffs. Nobody expected them to win this division. Nobody expected them to win a playoff game. And now they are one of the last two teams standing. They went out there, they knocked off the number one seed in the AFC. They came back this week and knocked off the number two seed in the AFC, who happened to be the two-time defending AFC champions. Now they got to go out there and face the Los Angeles Rams in the Super Bowl on their home field. I'm not ready to pencil in the Bengals as being Super Bowl champions, but I will say this. At this point, you know what? Every time the odds are stacked against them, they simply find a way to go out there and win. So, with that said, let's see if they can get it done one more time. They're 60 football minutes away. We got a lot to talk about. It's 2 weeks away. So, hopefully, if you're the Bengals, this time off doesn't kill your momentum. But let's see how the Bengals and Joe Cool, part two, Joe Burrow, get ready for Super Bowl number 56 at SoFi. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take the time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. You can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. Thanks to all of you folks for chiming in. Thanks for everybody who dropped something in the chat box tonight to keep this live popping and going. And as always, my name is William Martin. I'm signing off, saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.